there must be peace in the nations.
If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities.
If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors.
If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home.
If there is to be peace in the home, there is to be peace in the heart.
Today, our 3rd through 5th grade class will be meeting outside, which is delightful. And our Crossing Paths class, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're going to go down to the parlor to meet with Dana Snyder-Grant to learn more about what it means to be both Jewish and Unitarian Universalist. Let's join together in song.
Children, please come forward to meet your teacher.
We turn inward. Please join me now in meditation or prayer as is your practice. Spirit of life and love, we gather this morning at a time when many of us are anxious. Anxious about the outcome of the elections on Tuesday, which will impact the lives of so many. Or we are anxious about other things, the health and well-being of a loved one, stress at work, challenges with children, or so many other things. Some of us this morning are scared and fearful. Some of us are tired, some of us are angry, some of us are sad. And of course, some of us are happy, content, calm, or feeling peaceful. And at least a few of us have many of these all jumbled up inside. Gracious God, for all of us, please help us find that place of gentle rest within. That place that resides in all of us. That place that can sometimes be hard to find. That place of goodness and love and resilience. That spark of the divine that lives in us all. For all of us need to be reminded that that goodness lives within us. We all need to be reminded of our connection to the unquenchable love that lives within. For some of us are struggling in this moment, and others of us who may feel well now will almost certainly be struggling at some point in the future. Such is the nature of life. Spirit of life and love, help us feel your gentle nourishment, the goodness that lives within, the goodness that we share with each other, the goodness that strangers sometimes offer one another, the unbounded love that can never be overcome or destroyed. May we in this moment find our way to that goodness, even if we have to navigate past grief or find our way past feelings of stress or set aside our hurts for a moment. May you find your way to feel the gentle touch of love in your heart, in your spirit, and in your soul. May we know this love. May we touch it. May we hold this love within as we navigate the days ahead together. We pray this in the name of all that is good and holy in this world. Amen. Let us enter now into a time of silent reflection together. There must be love in the heart if there is to be love in the house. We are constantly in relationship, certainly if we live with others, and even when we live alone. Unless one is a hermit, living isolated far from others, we regularly come into contact with other people every day, in some shape or form, whether in person or online or over the phone. We are constantly in relationship. And many of us thus spend a good chunk of time over the course of our lives thinking about how we are in relationship with other people, wondering maybe why they did what they did, considering how we might want to behave differently towards others, perhaps even reflecting upon why we did what we did that maybe wasn't in line with our values. We often, though, overlook the most important relationship of all, our relationship with ourself. Now, that may sound funny to some of you, to think about being in relationship with yourself. Maybe it doesn't even make sense to you, the idea that we could be in relationship with ourselves, since we tend to think of a relationship as happening between two separate entities. But trust me, you are in a relationship with yourself. You treat yourself a certain way, and you hear your internal voice. And so I have questions this morning, starting with, how do you treat yourself? Are you gentle or judgmental? Do you beat yourself up when you make mistakes, or do you offer yourself love and forgiveness? Do you feed yourself food that is good for your body? Do you exercise? Do you make sure you have enough time to get enough sleep? With our actions, our words, and our feelings, you most certainly are treating yourself a certain way. And so if you were to look at how you treat yourself from the perspective of a neutral party, where would you say you fall on the spectrum from kind to unkind? Are you generally more or less kind to yourself? The answer to this question matters a whole lot because it matters how you treat yourself. Just like it is important to most of us that we treat other people with love, kindness, and care, it matters that we treat ourselves with love, kindness, and care. It matters because when we are unkind to ourselves, when we allow our inner voice and dialogue to be mean, when we judge ourselves, when we shame ourselves, it causes us harm. Harm we do not deserve. Harm you do not deserve. Most, if not all of us, would probably say that we want to treat people with kindness. And so we need to do the same thing with ourselves. Because we all deserve to be treated with love and kindness. And the person who interacts with you the most, the person who does the most things for you, whose voice and thoughts you hear the most, is you. This is our primary relationship. And like in all relationships, you deserve to be treated with love and kindness. That's also not always easy. There are so many pressures on us, and we often have bad habits around how we treat ourselves, many of which we picked up as kids, learned from our family of origin. So many of us carry around shame inside, shame and or fear, anxiety, stress. So many of us do beat ourselves up when we make mistakes. So many of us judge ourselves harshly. We are often unkind to ourselves, even as we would be appalled to see others judging people the way we feel free to judge ourselves. And we would be appalled at the way that we wouldn't be okay with shaming people the way we feel free to shame ourselves. Now, you should treat yourself with love and kindness for you. And if you need a little extra nudge of motivation, if it's hard for you to offer yourself love, then do it for those whom you love. Because in the end, as much as we may try otherwise, as much as we might try to manage our behavior and make choices that are in line with our values, as much as we might try to relate to others with love and kindness, usually, over time, we end up treating others the way we treat ourselves. If we are generally kind to ourselves, if you are generally kind to yourself, then great, you are in good shape because you're likely to be generally kind to others. But if you are mean to yourself, if you judge yourself, if you don't forgive yourself, if you are critical of yourself, if you don't take care of yourself with your actions in terms of food, exercise, sleep, and more, you are highly likely to treat the people in your life the way you treat yourself, and judge and critique and hold grudges and not be kind and loving in your actions. How we act in our primary relationship, our relationship with ourself, that tends to be how we act in all our other relationships over time. Friends, it matters how you treat yourself because our own meanness, our own judgment, our own grudges, they all hurt us just as much, if not more, than the meanness, judgment, and grudges we experience in relationship with other people. It matters how you treat yourself because it directly correlates with how you treat everyone else you are in relationship with as well. It matters that you treat yourself with love because you deserve to be related to with love, and so do the people in your life. There must be love in the home if there is to be love between neighbors.
Zaraz, Ukrainian for peace now. That was beautiful. Thank you, choir. I love how sometimes it had gentleness and sometimes it had great strength and force, still all for peace. We turn towards one another, and we start with our parish concerns, those joys and sorrows that we offer and hold for one another with care. Today, I have 2 sad milestones to share. First, Sue Cornwall died last Sunday, October 30th, a couple of days after an emergency medical procedure. Her family was at her side. Sue was a dedicated member of First Parish's By Your Side Singers, even bringing this music ministry over to First Parish in Lincoln. We pray that her husband, Nick, be comforted in this time. Second, Peter Hilton also died this week. He was the longtime president of Open Table and one of the founders of Bridge to Biloxi after Hurricane Katrina. Peter was a member of Kerem Shalom, but a longtime friend of us here at First Parish. May his family be comforted at this time, and may his memory be for a blessing, for his life clearly was. I add my prayers for comfort for all of you who were close with Sue or with Peter. And I wonder who else is on your heart and mind. I invite you to call their names aloud or type them into the chat now. And let's join together in spirit of life. There must be love between neighbors if there is to be peace between cities. Ten women swirl across the stage. Some spin in place, some move close to the ground, some slowly contract and extend their limbs as if exploring the space around them. They are dancers in a production called The Women Gather by Wendy Jalen of Anakaya Dance Company. The women swirl and spin and slip across the floor, and then they gather. They gather as women of different ages from many places, both abled and disabled. And I will tell you soon about some of the moments that they share in this gathering, as best I remember them. For now, I want you to know that each moment in that swirling, each moment in that gathering was filled with real caring. As the women gather, they connect with one another, tend to one another, support one another, heal one another. This caring for each other in Unitarian Universalism is sometimes called keeping covenant. You may have heard that our faith is covenantal, not creedal, or the saying that we need not think alike to love alike. In other words, you don't have to sign on to a specific belief statement to join this church, but you do have to want to build beloved community. Go out into the world in peace. Return to no person evil for evil. Honor all beings. This is part of our covenant, but mostly our congregation's covenant isn't recorded anywhere. Many other congregations have formal written covenants, but ours is a more implicit part of our life together. Some of you do have experience creating and using formal covenants in your committees and small groups. You talked together about what norms the group wanted to adopt and how you would show your care for one another. You might have begun with a question like, what am I willing to do so that everyone feels welcome and supported in this group? Or, what do I need and what can I offer to help our group go well? The agreement that you formed served as a touchstone throughout the group's life, a guiding light for your time together. Whether it's recorded or not, we can and do live out our covenant as a community. I don't know if the women in the dance troupe had a formal covenant, but I do know that I saw them keep covenant with each other on that stage. Here are those moments I promised to tell you about. 2 dancers cross the stage together, now wrapped in each other's arms, now leaping apart, now rising upwards, feeding off of each other's growing energy. They hold each other's gaze. One breaks into a grin. Their connection is clearly much larger than this performance. Their faces show a love and joy born of their work together over weeks or months, perhaps years. Keeping covenant helps us to develop trust in one another. We become free to be our true selves and to witness the other. We learn to show our love and care in moments of deep connection and joy. In an ensemble moment, the dancers' faces show strain. Huddled low to the ground, their movements are pushing and pulsing. Their voices are a staccato barrage. There is both strife and power here. The sound and movement are not fluid, yet there is connection rather than separation. The dancers are in sync, moving together through the challenge. Keeping covenant helps us during challenges and conflicts. When we face hard times, we can move through them together by treating each other with respect despite our disagreements. In a third moment, most dancers are curled up, cocooned in their own spaces on the dance floor. 3 women walk among them gently. When a cocooned dancer begins to tremble, one of the walking women comes near. She hovers her hands over the trembling woman's body, covering her with peace, as if smoothing wrinkles in a blanket, until the cocooned woman settles and softens again. Keeping covenant helps us be both strong and tender. When we notice that others in our community are hurting, we can bring them comfort and peace. And when we are in need, we can receive others' care. The dance was beautiful, not just because of its choreography, but because of how the dancers treated one another. Our community is beautiful, not just because of what we do when we gather, but because of how we do it. Friends, it matters how we treat one another. It matters that we treat one another with care, keeping our covenant as best we can. For keeping covenant together strengthens us in sweet times and hard times alike. It helps us treat each other with love on Sundays and in our daily lives. And it matters that we treat each other with love. For there must be love between cities if there is to be peace in our nation.
we turn outward. The mission of this church is threefold: to build community, to deepen spiritually, and to work for justice. At this time in our service, we offer a reflection on the ways in which our actions can shape the world as individuals and as a community. We are called to act in ways that support and hold beloved community for the good of the whole, both within and beyond these walls. Sometimes this requires sacrifice. Sometimes it requires courage. Always, it requires love. Liz Rust will share our candle this morning.
Good morning. Morning. You might know me as Liz Rust, the avid volunteer here at First Parish in Concord, but I am also Liz Rust, the board president of Concord Prison Outreach, an organization I am proud and honored to serve. And Concord Prison Outreach is our Share the Plate recipient this month. Concord Prison Outreach is a local 501c3 organization composed of a coalition of individuals and faith communities committed to helping people who are incarcerated build better lives for themselves and their families through offering high-quality, transformative programs that focus on education, personal growth, and increased opportunity for incarcerated people and their families. I can personally attest to the power of providing education and programs to those inside. I shared at a recent service that I have lived experience with being incarcerated. I know I eagerly awaited each of the volunteers that came, rain or shine, snow or sweltering heat, to guide us to a better way, to show the love and redemption around us, and to help with the difficult path of moving to acceptance from shame. These are the keys to turning one's life around to one of happiness, compassion, and positivity. Like many organizations, CPO is rebuilding after the last few years. We were here yesterday assembling holiday gift bags in the Parish Hall, an effort sponsored by the Women's Parish Association. And we thank all those who were involved as we made 620 bags, including 200 for the women imprisoned in Framingham. CPO this year is delivering 3,300 bags to half the people incarcerated in the Massachusetts prison system, and the other half are being put together by the Bethany House. CPO and First Parish have a long connection. In fact, First Parish was instrumental in launching CPO 50 years ago. Today, we celebrate that connection. We continue to celebrate that connection and gratefully accept your generosity through the Share the Plate. I'll be at coffee hour and happy to talk more. Thank you very much.
As always, our plate is shared this morning, with 50% going to Concord Prison Outreach and 50% for the care and well-being of this congregation. We thank you for your generous gifts this morning. There must be love between cities if there is to be peace in our nation. It matters how we treat one another in community. But how do we do that in the larger arena that is our society? Covenant works in a place where we're small enough to have agreement. But how do we place love at the center of a community of communities, especially in a society that seems to value aggression and violence, bullying, and self-centered narcissism? What does it mean to turn towards love? It means developing our skills in engaging conflict in healthy ways, inviting creative solutions, and deepening and expanding our empathy. The skills of active listening and being open and willing to compromise by expanding our own understanding of the world can change everything. Kindness is a gift we can extend at no cost to ourselves. A smile, a simple gesture of care, helping someone with their groceries, or perhaps letting the guy next to you in the lane next to you in when they're trying to get off the exit. We're here on this small blue marble floating in space together. How do we turn towards love? How do we open our hearts and minds to allow us to turn towards love? So I'm a Star Trek fan, and though I find him complicated, I wanted to share this observation from William Shatner from his recent book, Boldly Go, Reflections on the Life of Awe and Wonder, about his trip on the Blue Origin rocket. He writes, I had thought that going into space would be the ultimate catharsis of that connection I had been looking for between all living things, that being up there would be the next beautiful step in understanding the harmony of the universe. In the film Contact, when Jodie Foster's character goes into space and looks out at the heavens, she lets out an astonished whisper and says, they should have sent a poet. I had a different experience because I discovered that the beauty isn't out there. It's down here with all of us. Leaving that behind made my connection to our tiny planet much more profound. It was among the strongest feelings of grief I had ever encountered. The contrast between the vicious coldness of space and the warm nurturing of earth below filled me with an overwhelming sadness. It filled me with dread. My trip to space was supposed to be in celebration, and instead it felt like a funeral. I learned later that I was not alone in this feeling. When someone travels into space and views Earth from orbit, a sense of the planet's fragility takes hold in an ineffable, instinctive manner. Author Frank White first coined the term in 1987. He wrote, there are no borders or boundaries on the planet except that those we create in our minds and through our human behaviors. All the ideas and concepts that divide us when we are on the surface begin to fade from orbit and the moon. The result is a shift in worldview and in identity. There are no borders or boundaries on our planet except those that we create in our minds and through our human behaviors. What kind of borders do we wish to create? What kind of world do we wish to live in? My theology invites me to explore what it means to open the circle wider. Our UU theologies invite us to engage and explore in our inner life, to be self-reflective, to attend to body, mind, and spirit, to turn towards loving ourselves, engaging kindness and compassion. But our theologies don't stop there. They invite us to engage and explore what it means to live our lives in community with others, our interpersonal life, to grow our skills in managing conflict, to engage in covenant, to tend, support, heal, to turn towards loving one another, engaging kindness and compassion. And our theologies don't stop there. Our theologies extend beyond this community to the broader communities that make up this region, this state, this nation, this world. To recognize our place in the interdependent and interconnected web of life that binds us to all of the people of the Midwest and the South, to those in Argentina and Syria, in Nicaragua, in Burma. We are bound up together, our lives, our fates, our futures. What kind of world do we wish to create together? Shatner writes, when someone travels to space and views Earth from orbit, a sense of the planet's fragility takes hold in an ineffable, instinctive manner. They witness and recognize the brittle and sacred nature of life on this planet. And the result, Shatner writes, is a shift in worldview and identity. We are not likely to get an invitation to hop onto one of those rockets, right? So I wonder, what would it take for us to make this shift, to recognize that fragility and sacredness in all life? This is my prayer. Holy Spirit of love and light, guide us to be self-reflected in whatever ways will benefit our inner world and those around us. Sustain us with supportive and loving interpersonal relationships that we may know we are loved and cared for, and that we may love and care for others. Call us to continually extend our narrow view, to witness the interdependence, the sacred and fragile nature of the world and our lives in it. Help us to recognize with deep compassion, empathy, and love our place in this vast interconnected web, and to act from that place as much as possible. Help us to be released and to release others from the structures that confine us all, structures that make us smaller, petty, afraid, and unkind. Fortify us with a love that knows no borders or boundaries. Give us the strength to be kind even when we don't want to. And fill us with the fire of commitment to remember all these things and to do them well. The choices we name here and now and the choices that we make here and now matter. They shape our world. Vote. Be kind. Listen. Love. This is my prayer because I know that there must be love between nations if there is to be peace in the world. May it be so. Blessed be